I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm late. It's only a few minutes. But let's see. Let me get you on here. So I watched a little bit of the Crumbley trial today. I know they had a closing arguments in that shooter, and they had the mother, I believe they had the verdict too, didn't they? I really wasn't watching that, but one day it was too much. So let me get over here. We'll go through some of the headlining stories, and then we'll check in on the trials, tribulations. Okay, let me get over here. All right, so let me come over here. What do I want to turn on? Focus on my live stream, it says, and let YouTube do the work. Okay? Okay, do the work, YouTube. Hi, Georgie. You're watching from Sydney. Hi. I'm glad you're watching from Sydney. How'd you find us? Thanks for finding us. Hold on a minute. I'm just going to put my phone on the charger. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm coming back over. My wrist really hurt today, so I had to actually, all jokes aside, I splint it up and put a bunch of Pediatrician on it. Feels a little better. Hi, White Angel. How are you? All right. Hi, Margot. And everybody, membership, subscriber mode just got turned on. I didn't even realize I didn't even have tags in the last few videos that I did. That was not good. Anyway, let's talk about, we've got some things here. You've been here for years. Georgie, what made you start chatting tonight? I'm always interested in what makes somebody begin to chat. Is it just that you thought, heck, it's March 9th, I'm going to get up here and chat? I've been here for years. They don't even know about this. And I've started watching during Chris Watts, and I just decided I had better come on here and chat. Okay. So there's some stories here. There's a missing Connecticut toddler who has not been seen since Sunday. That's not a good thing. Then these two women right here, they drove their deceased roommate to the bank to withdraw his funds. You know, I imagine what was going through their minds. Maybe they were saying, right? If somebody said to me, that's like a really sleazy thing to do. And I was thinking, like, well, is there a way, like, to justify that? Like, did they justify this to themselves? Like, let's just say, well, Frank here doesn't have any family except for that brother that he didn't like. And, you know, we'd probably be doing what he wants anyway. He'd probably want us to have the money. And we need his fingerprint to, you know, unlock the ATM and get the money out. And then after we drive him to the bank, you know, we'll make sure he has a good send-off. Like, would that make it any better? I don't know. I don't know. But, yeah, it's like, and look at their pictures. The one lady on the left-hand side is like, well, you know, I mean, come on. And the other lady's just like, I cannot believe we got caught. I knew this was a bad idea. I don't understand this. This is so ridiculous. I made it to this age without ever having a freaking mugshot. And now, tonight, I'm on True Crime Chat with Mommy Ramblings, and everybody is hearing about this. Exactly, right? And then the woman on the bottom, Kentucky pediatrician, who paid for someone who was, it was a sting operation, because thankfully, but played for someone to cast a spell on her ex to kill him. Pediatrician. Hippocratic oath. You know what that is about? That's first, do no harm. First, do no harm. Okay. Now, I joined you in 2018 and started chatting in 2022. It's a better time as it's early Saturday afternoon here. But it was always early Saturday afternoon because I usually come on around this time, Georgie. So what made you start chatting in tonight? I'm just curious. I'm sorry if I'm curious, but I am. All right, let's start getting into the details. We'll first cover the missing Connecticut toddler. Okay. So her name, Aviana Frank. She's 3 years old, 3 feet tall, 40 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Connecticut State Police say Friday that the toddler has been missing in Norwalk, Connecticut since Sunday. She is believed to be a passenger in a black 2022 Hyundai Santa Fe with a license plate SIFU. I wonder what that stands for. SIFU. I think we know what the FU stands for, but it's usually STFU. SIFU. No further information was released, and anyone with information should call the Norwalk Police at 203-854-3000. It sounds like it may be a parental. I'm just assuming it's a parental or something abduction, and hopefully the parent will not hurt the child, and they'll be found. Hopefully. But if you do see anything, say something. Okay, now. Okay, let's get these women here. So, the women you see there, they're from Ohio. They're facing charges now after they allegedly found their elderly roommate deceased on Monday and drove his body, to the bank to withdraw his money. Karen Casbon and Lorene Ferrallo. Those women, they're 63 and 55. Trying to process that. I think the one on the right is probably 55, the 55-year-old, but I'm almost thinking like that just can't be. But anyway, their roommate Douglas Lehman was 80. Okay? Now, they eventually dropped him off at a hospital, but not before withdrawing the $900 from his bank account. They both lived with Douglas Lehman in his house, and the bank previously had allowed them to withdraw money from his account as long as he was in the car with them. Okay? Probably a small town. It's in Ashtabula County. So, hey, is he in the car? Yeah, he is. Like, did he have to give his okay? Like, did they throw their voice, get a voice changer and make him nod yes or something? I don't know. Okay, so they propped his body up in the front seat. So he was sitting in the front seat, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, they propped him up in the front seat. And apparently they were able to do it, so, he must have passed for okay. They put a hat on his head. I have no idea. And afterwards, they dropped his body off at a hospital without providing any information. Well, how did they drop his body? Like, how much did this man weigh? Did they get a wheelchair? Don't you want to know all these things? Did one of them come out with a wheelchair? They got him into the wheelchair. What kind of house did they live in? How did they carry him out of that house? Right? These two, I mean, there's like so much here to unpack, literally. Okay, so they dropped his body off without providing any information. And they called the hospital after and gave them Douglas's information. And that led the cops to come on by and question the women, right? It's unclear how he died, but the two women are charged with gross abuse of a corpse and theft from a person in a protected class. So their bonds set at $5,000, and they're doing court on March 14th. They could face additional charges. How do you feel about that? He was 80. They withdrew $900. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't even know how they were able to pull that off. Do you? I'm still marveling at the ages. Okay, let's go to this pediatrician. Pediatrician. Where's my pediatrician? Kentucky. Okay. So this Kentucky pediatrician is accused of plotting a murder of her ex-husband. She tried to hire a cult, not a cult, a cult, OCCULT, practitioners to kill her ex-husband with what's called a death spell. Stephanie M. Russell, how old do you think she is? How old do you think she is? I'm going to ask you to tell me. I'll put a larger picture of her. Just wondering, maybe we're going to add this to our true crime. How old do you think they are? How old do you think she is? let's see. I'm going to go back to the chat and see what's going on. Hi, Dina. Hi, Rich Guion. Hey, Painted Black is back at the house. Hi, Painted Black. So good to see you. We'll miss you, Painted Black. Hi. Painted Black says 57. Anybody else? Burnt Popcorn says 50. Well, I don't know. I mean, how old did you think those women looked? Did you think that either one of those women looked 55 before? Linda says 48. Linda! She's 53. I was going to say Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, right, exactly, but I won't. Whoops, I did. What a terrible story. Yeah, I thought the same thing, Rich, Weekend at Bernie's. I really did. You think she's 59 and holding. She's 53. Sassy Darcy, I know it. But she should know better. She took the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. But then you'd think she'd be even a little bit smarter that a death spell, okay? So she's believing and risking her medical license and everything else because she can't work this out with her husband, but to think to hire someone to cast a death spell, right? Okay. That's scary in and of itself. So let me get back to where we were. All right. Where we were. I don't even know where I have. I'm just going to have to go in here. Just going to have to go in here. So, Stephanie M. Russell is 53 years old. Now she is also charged with one count of using interstate commerce facilities in the plot where she agreed to pay an undercover FBI agent, not too smart there, Stephanie, $7,000 to kill Rick Crabtree after a judge awarded him sole custody of their 2 children. Now, I wonder how old the children are, but so here's this pediatrician. I want to ask first off, why, Miss Pediatrician, is your husband getting sole custody of your 2 children? Okay, that should be the first place we look. Second of all, you're willing to take $7,000, right? And you're paying off an undercover FBI who you don't know is undercover. You think this person is going to put a spell on your husband to kill him. Because that's the way you solve problems with murder, right? And this is really going to end up benefiting your children, taking their father away, and then number 2, what? Now destroying their lives because you're splashed all over True Crime Chat with Mommy Ramblings, and everybody's hearing about this. And now you've got a mugshot for $7,000 because you could not do what you needed to do, right? Okay. Anyway, she paid the FBI agent half of the fees before she was arrested in May of 2022. Her attorneys have entered into the records her prior attempts to have spiritual healers, okay, this is an oxymoron, spiritual healers who cast spells to harm someone. How is that a spiritual healer, Stephanie? I don't get it. But she did. Okay? She had in the past to cast spells on her ex. And how did that work out for you? Not too good, since apparently while you were busy doing that nonsense, he was getting sole custody of the kids, right? So that those spells weren't working out too well, were they? Okay. She asked, what is your success rate, your price, and your guarantee? Guarantee. You made it through med school there, Stephanie. So the person identified as Mama replies that she has an 85% death success rate and that her prices depend on the number of people. She offers a 100% guarantee or their money back. And then Stephanie asks this person if she uses sacrifice. But the woman says no. And the woman said she only works on a cash basis. She asks her for details about the type of magic to be used. But the woman says she can't tell you the intimate details, the inside details, but I will do your job. And then a second query went out to a spiritual healer who guaranteed a 100% result in 6 hours. Stephanie, seriously now, right? And you're taking care of children. People are putting their trust in you. Wow. She repeatedly asked to pay after the job is done, but is repeatedly told no. And then a third person advised Stephanie Russell not to use a death spell and said killing him, now here they were giving you the out, okay, because these were FBI people, Stephanie, and they said killing him, your ex, is going to harm you and your family as he has some type of protection on him. And Stephanie asked all three people about an Afro-Brazilian practice, Quimbanda, but none of them said they used it. The third one tried to convince Stephanie to use a banishing spell instead. Don't kill him, banish him, all right? Because that's going to work too. Instead, but the doctor was adamant that she wanted her ex-husband dead. Okay. Her attorneys seem to believe presenting this evidence will convince the court that she does not have the mental capacity to be convicted of murder for hire. Now let's talk about her attorneys. They're trying to say she doesn't have the mental capacity to be convicted of murder for hire, but she's treating children every day, and she has the mental capacity for that? And they said, and I quote, Ms. Russell's mental health was severely disturbed from both the empirical and clinical perspectives when she engaged in the conduct alleged in the indictment. In March of 2022, Stephanie Russell reached out to a self-described spiritualist for help, asking with all credulity for a death spell on her ex-husband. Her attorneys say that they plan to introduce testimony with a forensic psychiatrist who says over and over in a report that Russell is delusional. Prosecutors have opposed using him as an expert witness. She's been in jail without bond since her arrest, as a judge determined she remained a danger to her ex-husband. Her trial is set to begin on April 22nd. Boy, gotta be watching that. Really crazy. Okay. Hold on, I'm just taking a vitamin C. And my computer's locking up. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm going to try to close some of these windows. I'm sorry. Okay, and that's closed. And hopefully, let me close these. All right. Okay. And we'll close this one too. There we go. And now, let's see. You may just have to close you. I'll just close the program and start it up again. That way we won't have any problems. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Okay. Here we go. First I'm going to put you guys on here and see what you're saying. And then we're going to just look at what happened at the Crumbley trial today next. I thought I would bring those out to you. So, hi, Dean Elizabeth. Let's see. All right. So, what do you think about? Yeah. So sorry. Right, Margot? Okay. What do you think about that? I mean, hi, Margot Ellingsworth. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate that. All right, let's go and just look at what happened in James Crumbley's trial today, okay? James Crumbley is the father. Jennifer Crumbley was already found guilty. Their son was the shooter at the school in Michigan, and the mother's trial, she had that lawyer that there was like seemed to be a fight every day, you know. So let's I really thought this guy would take a plea deal based on his wife's conviction, but he didn't. He didn't. So the prosecutors accused James Crumbley on Thursday of failing to secure the gun that his son used to open fire in the high school hallway, killing 4 students. And they said that is one of several ways that he could have stopped this from happening. And the prosecutor, Marquiste, said, and I quote in his opening statements, "Those kids would still be alive today had James Crumbley seized any one of the tragically small and easy opportunities given to him to prevent his son from committing murder." The cable lock for the 9mm Sig Sauer handgun that Mr. Crumbley bought 4 days before his son went on this rampage in 2021, November 30th, at the Oxford High School, was never removed from its original packaging. It was still in the original packaging, even after the shooting, okay? They didn't even attempt to make it look like it was used. Appeared to have been unused. The gun, what was that? That was an early Christmas present for their teenage son. And Mr. Crumbley never mentioned it to the school officials. When he was told that his son had expressed concern about mental health issues, and he'd been making violent drawings in class just hours before this happened, okay? He failed to mention, hey, we bought him a gun as an early Christmas present. The prosecutor went on to say, and I quote, "That nightmare was preventable and it was foreseeable." Mr. Crumbley's lawyer, now not the same one his wife had, her name is Marielle Lehman, said in her opening statements that her client was unaware that his son had access to the gun and that he had no reason to think he was going to act violently. And I quote, she said, "James Crumbley did not know what his son was going to do. He did not know that his son could potentially harm other people. He did not know what his son was planning." Mr. Crumbley is 47 years old. His wife was found guilty by a jury last month for the very thing he's on trial for. They requested separate trials. They both faced and face 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for the 4 students that were killed by their son, who was 15 years old when he gunned down Madison Baldwin, 17, Tate Meyer, who was 16, Justin Schilling, who was 17, and Hannah St. Juliana, who was 14. Their son pled guilty last year to 24 charges, including first-degree murder, and he was sentenced in December to life in prison without parole. But the prosecutors want to hold the shooter's parents criminally responsible, saying that they neglected warning signs about the massacre, which also injured 7 people. They're using text messages and journal entries that indicated that their son was struggling with mental health issues and had planned the attacks on his classmates. These play an important role. They played an important role in the mother's trial, okay? And when messages were shown that Ethan wrote that said, "My parents won't listen to me about help or therapist," but it was unclear if his parents had ever seen that note. Not all of the messages will be allowed in Mr. Crumbley's trial. The same witnesses on Thursday who took the stand at Jennifer Crumbley's trial took the stand again. Molly Darnell, a teacher at Oxford High who was shot in the arm, described the moment she locked eyes with the shooter through a glass window, as well as her frantic efforts to barricade her classroom door even after she had been wounded. Edward Wagrowski was the second person to take the stand in James Crumbley's trial. He's a former detective and a computer crimes expert with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. He also testified at Jennifer Crumbley's trial, and he walked the jury through a timeline of the massacre, much of it being captured on school security cameras. He then also showed the cell phone data that helps trace where Mr. Crumbley was that day. And Mr. Crumbley at that time was working as a DoorDash, which is a food delivery driver. And he and his wife were called to school that morning after a teacher saw that drawing on that paper. And it had an object looking like a gun that the father had purchased for him, but neither the mother nor the father went through the teenager's backpack, and the weapon was in that backpack. Neither did school officials. After the meeting at the school, Mr. Crumbley went back to his DoorDash job. He completed several deliveries. And after 1 p.m., there was an email from the school that was alerting him to an emergency. At that point, he calls his son, but he gets no answer. And then after that, he went to his house. He went home. And he called 911. And he told the operator that there had been a shooting at his son's high school and that the gun that was at his house is missing. It's unclear whether he's going to take the stand. His wife did, but that will remain to be seen. Let's go up on Friday, and I keep thinking I'm so discombobulated because about the auction. We had it a day later. Okay, so the parents were called to the school over the drawing, and they went back to their jobs after a brief meeting in the counselor's office where they promised to get their son help, and their son went back to class. And 2 hours later, at the moment his dad received his fourth DoorDash order from a tropical smoothie cafe, that is when their son emerged from a bathroom and fired his first shot. The prosecutor went over the timeline of November 30th, 2021. And as he did this, he said James Crumbley, drove past his house 4 times from the time he saw this, referring to the drawing that was called to the school for, and never once did he stop at home. So he's saying, okay, he saw this drawing, this very, very disturbing drawing at the school. He knew that they purchased a gun for their son. And he's saying that not only didn't they search his backpack just to see, because they would know that they didn't even take that cable lock out of the packaging, right? But he didn't stop. He passed his house and he never once stopped. Let me just make sure the gun's secure, right? He didn't stop. No, he did not. The prosecutor said. And the sheriff, Detective Edward Wogrowski, answered the prosecutor that no, he did not stop there before and after the shooting to check on that gun. So Friday's testimony opened with Crumbley's attorney, Marielle Lehman, cross-examining Wogrowski. He evaluated text messages, phone calls, and social media accounts for the Crumbley family. The defense attorney Lehman spent much of her time questioning him about what he did not know. She got him to concede that he found no evidence that James Crumbley knew about the troubling texts that his son was sending to a friend late at night in the months before the shooting. The boy alleged he was asking his parents in vain for help with mental illness, with mental health issues, including that he was hearing voices. So the defense attorney asked about a text that their son, the Crumbley son, sent his friend on April 4th of 2021, which reads, "I actually asked my dad to take me to the doctor the other day, and he just gave me some pills and said to suck it up. My mom laughed when I told her." On cross-examination, Wogrowski conceded that he does not know whether James Crumbley ever saw or knew about that text, and that he found no evidence that the boy actually did ask to go to the doctor other than him saying so in the text, and that he does not know what kind of pills to which the boy might have been referring. The defense attorney suggested it could be Tylenol. Wogrowski said maybe Xanax, but the defense attorney countered that a conversation involving Xanax was from a different time period and that the parents actually discussed giving him melatonin. Lehman also asked Wogrowski to explain how much he really knows about a video that the shooter sent to his friend in the summer of 2021, in which the boy's hand is seen clicking a gun and loading a magazine into it. And she said, "You don't know if James is next to his son, across from his son, or if he was in the same room, or even heard anything when this happened." Wogrowski said he didn't have that information, though he opined that in a house as small as the Crumbleys, that a clicking sound could have been heard. "You don't know, that's my point," Lehman said. She also asked Wogrowski about an Instagram post that the shooter made on the day his dad purchased the gun that he would use 4 days later in the massacre, and the post reads, "Just got my new beauty." Lehman asked Wogrowski whether there is anything to show that James Crumbley saw this post, and he answered no. She also asked him about social media posts by his wife and son that included pictures of the two at the shooting range. There's nothing illegal or improper about taking your child to a shooting range or posting photos of the target that you use. Is there, she said? No, the detective answered. She also questioned him about perhaps the most damning evidence in the case, the troubling drawing that the shooter made on his math worksheet on the morning of the shooting, the one that led to the parents being called to the school. And I quote, she said, "James obviously expressed some concern." And she's talking about the text he sent his wife after seeing that drawing that said, WTF. Lehman did not question the witness about what happened in the school counselor's meeting that day with the parents. As the detective said, he didn't know anything about that meeting, but she did turn to other actions actions of James Crumbley that day, noting that after an active shooter alert went out, he drove to a Meyer parking lot, which was a reunification center for parents and kids, and called his son 2 times. He didn't know his son was in custody. He also called his wife, and then he drove home and called 911. In the 911 call, he told the dispatcher that he saw and heard the sirens and that he went to Meyer, that his son was a student and that he heard that there was a shooting, and he discovered that his son was missing and that he didn't know if his son took the gun and that he was freaking out. And Wogrowski said that's correct. Jurors also heard from Christy Gibson Marshall, who was the assistant principal at Oxford High School. She came into contact with the shooter during his rampage. She testified that after the school went into lockdown, she ventured down a hallway towards the sound of gunfire, and that's where she came upon the shooter. The shooter was coming close to me, she said. And she said, as he got close, I saw that it was Ethan. She added that she was surprised, as she had known him since middle school, and just said, and I quote, "He was a sweet kid. I asked if he was okay. He looked away from me," she said. She said that was also unlike him and that he would have talked to her. He kept walking. I walked with him for a couple of steps, and then I turned my back on him because I had a student that I needed to check on. That student was Tate Meyer, who was lying face down near a trash can. He'd been shot in the head, she said, but he still had a pulse. She said that, and I quote, "His mom was my PTO president. I began to give him rescue breaths. I continued until they took him from me. He did not survive." James Crumbley became emotional during this testimony. He was wiping tears from his eyes, and that continued even after she left the stand. Then the next witness was Cammie Back, an office manager at Acme Shooting Goods in Oxford. That is where James Crumbley went on Black Friday with his son, and they bought a 9mm Sig Sauer, and that's the gun that was taken from the house by the shooter and used to massacre those kids. Cammie Back testified that James Crumbley was a familiar face at the store and that he had purchased 2 guns there in June of 2021. She said that when he came into the store, he had a young person with him and asked to see the Sig Sauer, telling her that he had his eye on it. It's around there. Jurors saw a portion of a firearms transaction record, and that depicted James Crumbley checking the box indicating that he was the actual buyer of the gun, the firearm. The record included a warning in bold, and it's that said, and I quote, "You are not the actual transferee, buyer, if you are acquiring the firearm on behalf of another person. If you are not the actual transferee/buyer, the licensee cannot transfer the firearm to you." Cammie Back also testified the Sig Sauer came in a plastic case that did not have a lock mechanism on it, but that a cable lock was provided with the gun purchase. She said she didn't see any conversation between James Crumbley and his son while they were at the store. She was cross-examined by Attorney Lehman, who asked Cammie Back whether there is anything illegal about a dad going to a gun shop with his son or a minor going to the shooting range with a parent. Her answer, no. On redirect questioning, the prosecutor Keast asked the gun shop manager if James Crumbley's son had walked into the store that day and said, "Hey, Dad, that's the one I want. Would you have sold it to him?" "No," she answered. James Crumbley is adamant the gun was not actually a gift. It came with rules. And some of those rules were that the son was only allowed to use it at the shooting range and only with a parent there. There was a video that was shown to the jurors, and it featured James Crumbley explaining this to investigators just hours after the shooting. And he said in this video, and I quote, "We go to the shooting range all the time. I try to teach him safety." The prosecution then showed the jury a video of James and Jennifer Crumbley speaking with investigators in the hours after the shooting, where Jennifer Crumbley remarked that they had just been at the school that morning and said that their son had never done anything bad. As James started talking about how their son had been doodling on a test or a practice test, his wife interrupted and asked whether they should get a lawyer. James answered, "I think we can speak to the cops." They talked about meeting with the school counselor, and Jennifer Crumbley said she texted her son that afternoon to see whether he was okay, and he texted her back that he had just gotten back from lunch and that he loved her. When they were asked whether their son had any issues, James Crumbley said, "Not that we know of," adding that his son's best friend was sent out of state over health concerns, that their dog had recently died and that James's mom had passed away earlier that year. James Crumbley could also be heard saying that their son was the perfect kid and didn't get in trouble. He told investigators the gun had been hidden in their armoire in a case, and the bullets were hidden in a different spot, underneath jeans. After he learned that there was an active shooter at the school and saw the cops, he said he immediately raced home and found the gun missing, and when he did, he called the police. In that video, still right there, that was shown, that is James Crumbley on the left, Jennifer Crumbley on the right, and Ethan Crumbley in the chair. After they met with their son there after the Oxford High School shooting in an interview that was played in the courtroom. So the video was also shown of the couple being led into a room where their son was handcuffed to a wall. James Crumbley was seen sobbing and tells his son repeatedly, "I love you." Though the prosecutor suggested that the father was trying to cover up the sounds of his own son, who was saying, "I did it." And testimony in this case will resume on Monday. So, a lot going on there. And let's see here. So let me go back to where you guys are. What painted black? Hi, K-Rox. K-Rox, I never got an email from you. I need you to resend it. I cannot find an email from you. Okay? Thank you. So what do you think of that? What do you think of that? You think it's a different jury, it's a different defense attorney. You think it's going to end any differently than Jennifer Crumbley's trial? I don't know. What do you think there? You can let me know. Let's talk about that. Let me talk about the other one too. Robin Howington. Okay. This is so weird. Hold on a second. Why is there two things that she was found? Okay, so little Destiny Oliver was shot and killed in September of 2019. Her mother and 2-year-old brother were in their Balsam Drive home at the time of the shooting. Now, if you know about this, then you know that she tried to blame it on the 2-year-old. She kept changing her story, and then they had video of her putting this gun and into the bushes outside the house. It was really crazy. And on March 4th, she was convicted on lesser charges of something else, right? But the Knox County jury spared the mother a murder conviction in the 2019 death of her 5-year-old child. 5-year-old, did I say 9 years? 5-year-old child. Shot to death at close range as she laid on the couch watching Netflix. They only deliberated 2 hours. They convicted her of reckless homicide rather than felony murder. She took the stand Thursday, said that her 2-year-old fired the shot that killed her daughter, Destiny Oliver, the night of September 14, 2019. If she had been found guilty of felony murder, she faced a life sentence. Instead, she's looking at a likely range of 2 to 4 years in prison. But that's not all she's guilty of. The jurors also convicted her of 2 counts of aggravated child neglect, as well as making a false report, tampering with evidence, and attempting to tamper with evidence. Because the child was under the age of 8, she is guilty of what is called a Class A felony, the highest classification in the state, and that carries a 15 to 25-year minimum in prison. Knox County Criminal Court Judge Scott Green set April 19th for sentencing. A background investigation will be conducted on her ahead of sentencing, and the judge has a range of options on how she could be sentenced. For example, they could combine some terms and make others run consecutive to each other. She's been out on bond, but with the verdict, she was ordered to be taken immediately into custody. When the verdict was read, she showed little emotion, and she was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Okay, and about 2:15 Friday, the jury had made up their mind about this. The testimony and evidence that was shown this week indicated that Howington's little boy, the 2-year-old, found the loaded gun in the mother's home and fired it at his sister from a distance of about 2 feet. Destiny likely lived just less than a minute afterwards. The bullet pierced her hand, a TV remote, and then through her chest as she laid on the couch. Prosecutors in their closing arguments, Ashley McDermott, and Heather Good, told jurors that the evidence on its face and from Howington's own mouth showed she was guilty of felony murder. The charge essentially states that the perpetrator is guilty of felony murder while committing another felony, in this case, which was failing to adequately protect Destiny. We're here because of one person's actions. It could have been prevented. It should have been prevented by the one person who had the duty and the responsibility to do so. And like I said, she failed miserably at it. In the 5 years this case has been pending, she has only been worried about herself. The state contended that Howington was criminally responsible for her daughter's death based on her actions and negligence, that she tried to cover up several things, and that she did nothing. She only told lie after lie after lie after lie. Investigators could not definitively say who shot Destiny. Howington denied that she did it. In the hours after the shooting, she told police first that it was a random man who barged into the house, and then she said it was Destiny's father, and then that it was her son. When she took the stand on Thursday, she told jurors she failed to keep track of the loaded gun, and that she was outside smoking a cigarette when her little boy got a hold of the gun and fired one shot. Forensic evidence showed the presence of gunshot residue when a shot is fired on the boy's clothes and the mother's dress. An autopsy also showed Destiny was probably shot from about 2 feet away as she laid on the couch. On the night her daughter died while riding in a police car, she texted an acquaintance that her son had shot her daughter. At the hospital, she asked a woman in a restroom to get rid of her phone, indicative of her deceptive attempts to avoid police scrutiny. Found on the phone were messages about selling narcotics. Defense attorney Mike Whalen told jurors that from the start the little boy fired the shot, and Howington desperately tried to protect the child. This is a family tragedy that the state is trying to make worse, he said. He said that Howington's inconsistent statements about who pulled the trigger were due to extreme distress because she endured post-traumatic stress disorder from a prior SA. She was in no rational frame of mind. Over the last few days, prosecutors said Howington repeatedly lied and tampered with evidence. For the first time, they had a chance to cross-examine her under oath on Thursday. On the night of the incident, after the family got home from a day at the park, she says she took her kids inside because they were asleep. She went out for a cigarette and went to move her car because it was obstructing the mail. I was walking up to my house, and it's a glass door, and I see a flash of light go off. She walked inside, and that's where she found her 2-year-old son crying and screaming. Destiny was on the couch, and the gun was lying on the floor. I took the gun, took it outside. The defense attorney asked, "Why did you take it outside?" Because evidence showed that she was trying to get rid of the gun, which had been dropped outside in a bush. And she said, "Because I didn't want it to cause more harm." Prosecutors said they called Brandon Wardlaw, one of the Knoxville Police Department investigators, to the stand on Thursday. He was the investigator that questioned Howington back in 2019, and it turned into a battlefield about mishandling the investigation. Whalen said from the beginning, that's the defense attorney, that Howington told them she was essayed by an officer and she was scared. And then you watch the officer, Tim Riddle, lose his mind and scream at her, "Did you ever stop and say, 'Whoa, whoa, let's talk a minute'? Did you ever say that?" Whalen asked. Wardlow said no. Wardlow said they had a goal that night, and that was to find out who killed Destiny. Prosecutors brought Dr. Amy Hawes to the stand, who was the medical examiner and the forensic pathologist. She said the gun was held close when it was fired. Evidence showed that there was gun residue on Howington's dress and on the 2-year-old's clothes. Hawes said, "I would say the gun was held anywhere from a few inches up to a couple of feet away, and it depends on the type of gun and ammunition that was used." There were several different versions of events that followed the incident, all telling different stories about who shot the little girl. Howington changed her story from a random guy to the father of a child, and then finally to her young son. She testified that she tried to get rid of the gun to protect her 2-year-old son because he was the one who pulled the trigger, because I knew that was the gun that the little boy used to shoot Destiny, and I was trying to protect him. She said that's why she threw it in the bush outside. She never thought she would face a murder charge because I didn't have anything to do with shooting my daughter, she said. She changed her story as the minutes and hours ticked by after the shooting. The earliest version of the story, an earlier one, was that the child's father barged into their home, fired a gunshot, perhaps to scare her. Destiny was lying on the couch watching Netflix, and the bullet hit her. Let's see. Officers were first sympathetic to her, but they changed their stance when they began to see that her stories just did not add up. She lied about the gun. She lied about the sequence of events before the shooting. She lied about what she did. Then she switched her story to telling police the 2-year-old son had retrieved the gun from a closet and fired it, perhaps in defense of his mother. And then when police began poking holes in that story, she switched down to another story where the victim's father had come over to the house. She'd gotten the gun. She turned on him. They tussled, and in their struggle for the weapon, it went off and fatally struck her daughter in the chest. Court testimony showed Tuesday that version at least seemed consistent with some that they learned about the relationship with her and the child's father, because she had pulled a gun on him outside of her house before. Again, she misled the investigators, told falsehoods in an interview. After Destiny died from the single gunshot wound to her chest, she also suffered a hand wound from the bullet, and it appeared to cause damage to the TV remote control. Security camera video from a neighbor helped build a framework about what happened, and once they started comparing it, along with its time codes, to her story, they were able to refute everything she was saying, one after the other. For one, it showed her getting rid of the gun immediately after Destiny was shot. She tried to hide it under a bush by the house, something that she denied at first. Investigators also went back to her house to check her claim that her son had used a stool to reach up to the bedroom closet to get the pistol. It doesn't add up. You keep telling me the 2-year-old boy. It can't be the 2-year-old boy. One of the investigators said he learned that she'd pulled the gun on Destiny's father during an argument 2 days prior to the homicide, during which he'd taken the gun away from her. 2 things were inconsistent. The first being her saying, "I did not kill my baby." She also said multiple times that her daughter never would have been shot if the girl's father hadn't come over to the house that night. On Wednesday, Howington turned away whenever she saw pictures that were presented to the jury about her daughter, her child's bloody shirt, the couch where she died. Forensic evidence offered on Wednesday offered signs it could have been an accident. Forensic experts from the TBI said they found gunshot residue from the shooting on her dress, Howington's dress, and on the little boy's clothes, and that would indicate they were both close to the gun when it was fired. If this gun had been found by a child loaded with the safety off, all they had to do is pull that trigger to fire, said defense attorney Mike Whalen, and Ryan Kukindall, the TBI expert in forensics, said that is correct, yes. Tim Riddle said that when he questioned the mother, she lied again and again about who fired the fatal shot. She said it was her 2-year-old as the shooter in one version of events. A video from the day when the investigator Riddle and another investigator read Howington her Miranda rights was played inside the courtroom. "No, she will be charged," Riddle said in the video. "She will be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious. You're going to go to jail for that tonight. You can lie all you want to. We want the truth from you." Evidence showed that the 5-year-old girl died from a bullet that went through the remote control, through her chest, and through a pillow. And now at trial, her defense attorney said she was a grieving mother who had just lost a child, and the investigators mistreated her. Okay, so then her attorney said, asked the Riddle about a policy that says there's a specific time frame on when an officer involved in a shooting should give testimony. So off and on, police officers get 48 to 72 hours to get their thoughts together and recall things, and citizens get whatever time you give them, he said. And Riddle said, "Yes, sir." In this case, 45 minutes from being told her daughter was killed. And the investigator said, "We were trying to determine the cause, the motive. Was this a domestic?" The defense said that the police department manipulated the story, suggesting to Howington the shooter was the child's father, and said, "I don't think he intended to kill the little girl. I think he was going to shoot and scared the hell out of you, his ex-wife." And he said, "Oh, I shot the baby," Riddle said in the video. And she said, "Yeah, you're right, okay, you're right." Riddle said they thought it was the father because of his background, because his background includes domestic violence. And we went there based on the database. We do not want anyone that would harm a 5-year-old on the streets. That was important to me and should be important to any human who's walking the streets of Knoxville. Let's see, so there was something where it said, hang on a minute. Where did I just see that? They just said 5 days ago. So she has a sentencing for April 19th, and we'll see what happens there. That was a crazy trial. Sorry, she has left, I think. Oh, okay. I'm here. I'm back. Hi, Linda. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Craziness on that trial, right? Tomorrow we will be having a sale. It will probably be starting a little earlier, I think. I have to see what's going on tomorrow. What's the weather going to be like? Yada, yada, yada. It's 36 now. I did get to take a walk today with Roman. I did put something on TikTok about that. I was trying to upload a short today, and I never got to it. Maybe I'll do it after this. I had 2 shorts. I had Roman, and I had a little bit of a stream running, kind of relaxing, to watch. Oh my gosh. So let's see what else is going on in your little neck of the woods. No, in our big blue marble of a world. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'm just trying to see. Trying to see if there's anything else going on here. Adam Devine and his wife Chloe Bridges welcomed their first baby. Adam Devine. It's Adam Devine. Oh, Tori Spelling. Oh. Tori Spelling, look at this. She's wearing fishnets to an arcade, fishnets, and she's meeting with, look at this, giving a hug and a kiss to Dean's new fling there. Dean McDermott's new fling. Lily Kalo. And there seems to be, they'd be fine. She met up with her estranged husband, Dean, and his new sidekick there at Dave and Buster's in Los Angeles on Wednesday night. It was one of the kids' birthday parties, and that's just like you want your mom showing up for your birthday party. McDermott and his new significant other there were first romantically linked in October of 2023, and they were seen walking into the party, each carrying a colorful gift bag. Nice. And okay. She gave each of them a kiss on the cheek. She was even seen jokingly wiping a lipstick smudge off of Kalo's face. Yeah. Okay, good. And let's see, they had a they played arcade games. They just looked like they had a great time. So, all looks good here. Yeah. Definitely looks great. Looks great. You believe everything is good over there? Okay, and apparently, they chatted in a park in Agoura Hills, California on February 28th. Things seemed a bit tense then, and prior to that, he hadn't seen her since November when he called it quits with her. So, yeah, this is funny. Yeah, hysterical. Okay. So a source said that the pair are in a much better place and that Dean has been taking care of himself and it's made it easier for him and Tori to co-parent. Dean's been more involved with the kids and they're all doing well and regrouping as a family. So maybe they're going to all move in together. What do you think? All right. I don't know. You know, it's best if they can all get together for the kids, but this just looks a little bit strange. But hey, whatever best for the kids, right? Right. Let's see. Brenda P says, let's be real. She's probably like, thank goodness he's your problem now. I don't know, Brenda, because this woman was like obsessed with him. That's why I think she had kid after kid after kid thinking it would hold him. Okay? I missed you, Painted Black. Dean is a cheater, and Brenda said, and a drunk. Tell us how you really feel, Brenda. Painted Black, please. Hi, Monica. How are you? How are you, Monica? All right, so what else is going on? Hi 61. How are you? How's it going? I was going to do something. I don't know what it was. Oh, I know what I was going to do. Hang on. Just hang on. Just hang on. All right. Ouch. Hold on a minute. Ouch. All right, let me get something. I think you know what we're going to do, because I have to do a bunch of stuff tomorrow that's like super duper important, and let me get word cookies going. And if you're brand new here, and maybe some of you are, this is what we do at the end of the night to just relax a little bit and have a little fun. As we play the word cookies daily puzzle, we can still talk. You can still talk. You're doing well. Hi 621. Yeah, I can still talk to you. It's no problem. No problemo. Not to be mean, but he is ghostly white, Brenda P. He's ghostly white. Yeah. Okay, so here it is, almost the end of March. Okay. What is it? What is it? What is it? Lil lighty? No, that's not a word. I know, but it's not. Gin is always in there. If there's gin to be made, it's always there. Always. Always, always, always. It's always there. What about a Gila monster? Huh? Ling, Brenda? Ling. Ling. No, not there. Willie dropped a new album today? Everybody Wayne Chung tonight. I guess not here. No, that's what we needed. Nail. N-A-N-A-I-L. Okay. Align. Okay, Margot. Things are aligning. Things are aligning with the sound of a new Zoom. All right, guys, I will see you in a little bit. We will see you. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless and prayers for all. Good, so good to see you back, Painted Black. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. Sometimes I find myself yelling at my TV like she can hear me. Maybe I can, Brenda. Try it. Sometimes I don't know. I can hear you. Love you, girls, boys, everybody. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let those bed bugs bite. Sweet dreams. Love you guys. God bless. Prayers for all. See you tomorrow.